Anybody getting the +4? Oh. Well, you missed it. I said Chocobo again. But all right, yeah. You only get the +2. It must be hard to emoji in the car. Okay. So what happened is Kale has agreed to come on the live stream tomorrow, and I thought maybe not everybody has met him yet. But he's a longtime fixture of the corner at this point. So I thought I'd run through some of that, and basically, I was thinking I should make the thumbnail and post that the live stream is gonna happen tomorrow, and nothing came up, nothing sprung forward to use as the thumbnail for it. So I thought perhaps we'd, it'll come it'll come out when we do this. You should have seen him by now on. I wanted to showcase really that apparently if you make clips of someone's channel, they can dig around in the studio far enough to where they find it. I don't know if it only is the one, but it should make. I would think that if you guys made clips of it, they would have appeared here as well. But here's the talk I had with Kale. Here's a little snippet.
I can't imagine something more terrifying to me right now than.
Oh, I did it again.
Kind of constitutional convention.
There's this thing. This thing with the clips mechanic when you load them to play, that if you click too much too fast before it does this fancy thing, before it puts it in the stupid box, it gets very angry. You have to let it go into the stupid box and then do.
More terrifying to me right now than if we were to have a kind of constitution.
Is terrified of the notion.
Right. I mean, because
the Constitution's the operating system, and as we've learned, it's good not to stay on Windows 95. And the operating system we have didn't know what an internet was. So it's time to write an OS upgrade. But everybody who knows what that is terrified of the notion.
Right. I mean, because I can't imagine something more terrifying to me right now than if we were to have a kind of constitutional convention. Even though I know, based upon what you've just laid out, or just a couple of things that you've mentioned, are exactly the reasons why, like, hey, maybe we have to look at the OS, right? Windows 95 is, all 13 floppy disks are, not quite enough to sort of make this thing go. But at the same time, I mean,
so that's fabulous, and you can check it out. I'll get back to it later, but first, hey, even though it's an Unshow, I'll give you some savings throws. You know how it goes, though. You should. I don't have to explain it because it's not an Unshow. If you're new here, you're watching a weird one. This doesn't count. Survival, social, wisdom, or heart. Choose. Ooh, 3 for the survivalists for this one. Lovers of socialism. 16 for you. Wisdom kids. Disciples again. That's a 12. Hard folks with a 6. And indigo kids. Your 7 looks a lot like a 1, but it's a 7. It's a 7. Hey, Jasmine, good to see you. Okay, and then we'll do a casino card for the show right after this. This is a chill one. Welcome to the Unshow, Kale Prep. So this is such an Unshow that if you're one of the people who normally joins us in the hive mind in the morning afternoons, you won't be missing anything if you don't. This is just like background research hanging out. But the eight of spades is the casino card for the show. Nonetheless. Now, well, I should save it now since I said that but I had on the Discord. Pilgrim said to me, "This thing here was a teaching related to altitude and attitude, and I think it's like he knows I'm a time traveler and wants me to go attend it, even though it's back in December 15th, the Ides of December of 2019, but." It's in a beautiful and famous discourse, the Sigalaka Sutta. The Buddha taught a framework for building out and sustaining healthy communities. He used the model of the 6 directions where the practitioner thinks of themselves in the web of relationships with their parents to the east, the teachers to the south, partner and family to the west, friends and colleagues to the north, employees and dependents below, and religious renunciates and charities above. Reflecting on our place in this mandala of interdependent. Look at the way that mandala word looks. Look what they did there. There's some kind of evil magic going on. Where'd it go? Look at that. Even bigger. Make it big so they can see. Look at this. It's weird. Look at what they did there. That's creepy. I'm going away now. Okay. Air. Oh, what? Oh, I closed it too hard. Hold on.
Someone who doesn't enjoy kale and salads because you find it bitter and kind of tough to eat, I challenge you to massage your kale before you eat it. This tenderizes the kale and makes it way less bitter. Such a nice bite. I like to add lemon juice or olive oil and then literally just massage with your hands for 1 to 2 minutes. Makes for much more beautiful kale. And remember to follow for more hacks like this. If you're someone who doesn't enjoy kale
and so imagine that when you're a mid-age teenager, 15, 16, something like that, your primary concern is get away from your family of origin, start to establish independence, but do that by becoming a stalwart member of your in-group, right? So you move your allegiance from the family to the broader community, and you do that with your friends. But then there's a step past that where you're trying to sort out what your ethical obligation is to the
No, I haven't gotten that far, Papa Peterson. I haven't gotten that far. Why are you playing Papa Peterson? Well, you'll see. We're playing like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon for people here, except it's Papa Peterson. Here's and then now watch.
To yourself and the broader community at large, which is something like the specifying the grand purpose of your life. And that produces, especially among ambitious and perhaps better young people, is the desire to do something important with their lives. And then they go to university, and instead of being chastised, I would say in some real sense, which is to be taught, look, you've got lots of potential, but you don't really know.
What? Who is that guy? I don't know. Let's see if he ever says anything.
Anything. You've got 15 years of apprenticeship in front of you before you're the kind of tool that won't cause trouble when it's applied. And so just sit back and subject yourself to the long apprenticeship that's going to discipline you, get your life together, mature, learn how to work, learn how to be productive, and then go out and do what you can to improve the world for the better. They're taught.
So, like, how much of his podcasts are just him preaching at people and them nodding these days? I haven't looked in a minute.
Instead, that the mere existence of their youthful outrage, which is compromised in its integrity by their resentful sense that they're at the
see these white upper managers resign to make place for a person of color or a gay person or a minority person. No, they were making other people deal with their own, the upper management's anxieties and sense that they were frauds. And I think it was also a form of indulgences in the Middle Age, the medieval Catholic sense of indulgences. If they would use their power to put the oppressed in places, in positions within the company, then they felt that they had somehow gained holiness or gained.
Yeah, well, do you think we should be?
No, I get. Let's see what Peterson asked him and they answered. Let's go ahead and take it that far. This is research.
Cynical or sympathetic about that, or both. So imagine working on the argument that we were developing earlier is that.
Oh, no, wait. That's probably how he got into that 10-minute thing. So, why? So, mere video screens away from that connection to Papa Peterson is this. We'll go back there.
What was the dominant and the only philosophical stance of the High Middle Ages. We lost that when nominalism took over. And I don't want to get into the weeds here, but basically we used to believe that there was an intrinsic connection between heaven and earth, between the spiritual and the material. That began to separate at the end of the High Middle Ages. And now we're in a point where, to follow the guy from Demons, if you, in order to extend full human power,
what?
To follow the guy from Demons, if you, in order to extend full human power over the material world, you have to kick God out, and there's no way for it to be anything other than a tyranny.
Yeah, and therefore you can see the logic, paralogic. I would use sort of the Pieper notion of a paralogic. In other words, it's a logic that looks like real logic, but ultimately isn't. It's an ape of real logic. But you can understand the paralogic of something like the trans or queer movement, right? Because the implications are that material, there's no matter to things, right. To riff on McGilchrist's second book that I haven't read yet because I don't have $135 to buy the book yet. But that matter is,
Friends, I also don't have $135 to buy the book, and I probably won't buy the book if you donate $135, but nonetheless.
Now what'll that asshole think of next? Is anybody got a dime? I don't know.
To use the phrase from one of my favorite poets, the Jesuit,
Gerard Manley Hopkins.
Gerard Manley Hopkins, right? The world is charged with.
So one of your favorite poets is a Jesuit, noted.
The grandeur of God, right? And it's like we know from one of my favorite poets, the Jesuit,
Gerard Manley Hopkins.
Gerard Manley Hopkins, right? The world is charged with the grandeur of God, right? And it's like we no longer believe that the material universe is anything other than, to use a Heideggerian phrase, reserve. Right, it's just a sort of a warehouse in which we can mine to craft and fashion whatever we want, and now that has radically come to include even our very bodies, right? And so that the butchering.
So that's his connect. That's how close we are to Peterson with this guy. And look, he was on the fringe encounter with Grimm. With the sound is terrible.
Even though I know, based upon what you've just laid out, or just a couple of things that you've mentioned, are exactly the reasons why, like, hey, maybe we have to look at the OS, right? Windows 95 is, all 13 floppy disks are, not quite enough to sort of make this thing go. But at the same time, I mean, can you imagine if we had a constitutional convention right now, the kind of it would. I mean, what a disaster, right? Am I wrong? I mean, I just feel like it would be an utter and total disaster.
Can you answer me 2 questions?
Yep, I'll try.
How many billions of dollars a day goes to Israel? And how many billion have we spent on buying weapons to blow up Ukrainians and Russians?
Hi guys, I want to talk about why I love kale so much. This stuff right here, this is what it looks like right there. And hopefully at the end of this, you'll love it as well. Kale is a very interesting vegetable because a lot of the other cruciferous are high in oxalates, okay? And that turns into kidney stones, but kale is very low in oxalates, believe it or not, okay? So it's not going to contribute to kidney stone, and definitely not like spinach. Spinach is like very high in oxalates, okay? It's also unusually high in protein. It has all 9 essential amino acids. It has all 9 non-essential amino acids. So it's like an amazing source of protein, which is
I'm gonna
pretty
have
cool.
a look at
It
you.
has more omega-3 than omega-6.
I'm gonna have a look at you. I'm gonna have a look at you.
It's an Unshow. It said Unshow right there in the title, right there. Now, I don't know if it's circumstance or coincidence or serendipity or synchronicity, but like you, as I briefly mentioned earlier, the pilgrim in the Discord said, "Hey, there's this Buddha talk from 2019." And similarly, Kale has been known for the corner for some time.
And I've got a special guest on with me today, Kale Zeldin, coming from Rhode Island, a place that I know fairly well. I have a niece that lives there. My mother lives just over the border in Whitensville. And I asked Kale for this conversation because I read his piece and really was really impressed by it and really touched me, and thought that, you know, we would have something to talk about. So thank you so much for being willing to come on today, Kale.
My pleasure. You know, it's very exciting. I've often joked in my many walks listening to your podcast that, you know, you from time to time make reference to being able to talk to randos on YouTube or randos on Twitter, and I'm pretty excited to be one of your randos today. So
All right.
It's a real pleasure, honestly. Thank you for having me on.
Well, why don't we begin as I usually begin, and why don't you introduce?
And that's by jumping to the 33rd minute, if it's that long.
Look, I'm teaching at a Catholic school. I'm an out Catholic, you know, teaching. I self-identify as that. As funny it is to say that out loud. Again, I work in a mainstream world, right? And if there's a certain fatigue that sets in, right? And for me, you know, one of the things that I've always loved about you, you know, you talk about like low res and high res, and recognizing, that at the end, so when all this sort of stuff comes out, and I had this sort of very simplified, like, look, a priest who wears his clericals and says a reverent mass, good, and a priest who, like, throws the liturgical prayers out and straps on the guitar and starts performing to his group, bad, right? And that's in my very sort of simple Catholic world, my frame. And it slowly dawned on me that actually, and maybe even especially, the worst of the predators were the ones who would wear a cassock and could talk Thomas, and that there's a special kind of wolf in sheep's clothing who would adopt the clothing of overt orthodoxy. Within the Catholic Church.
Oh dear. What's up, Chad? What's good? What's good is we're doing a Kale prep show because Kale's coming on tomorrow, and I couldn't think of what to title or thumbnail it. And so we're going back in time. That was probably 2020, not 2019. We don't know. But it's an Unshow, so I'm not as funny and charming as I normally am. However, I since this is what's happening, and he said the wolves in sheep's clothing. I'm gonna play for you now something that I came across earlier today that references that.
The list?
Yes, any of the first level ones.
I'm gonna get a soda. Anyone want one? Hey, Graham, I'm not in the room, right?
What room? I want to cast Magic Missile.
The room where he's casting all these spells from.
He hasn't cast anything yet. I am, though, if you'd listen. I'm casting Magic Missile. Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here. I'm attacking the darkness.
That's the thing, right? I'm like, hey guys, I'm here to bring salt water to your estuary. Your Christians should be able to deal with this thing and the Nagamati and this, all of these things. I'm like, hey guys, you can't just Ned Flanders your way through this anymore. You're about to be fed to lions again. And now the synchronistic wolf in sheep's clothing.
You should accept yourself just the way you are.
You stop it. You stop it. The wolf in sheep's clothing reference I ran into earlier today.
Top of a bus, and the colours were inverted. The bus had the colours of the child catcher's coat, and Russell wore the colours of the child catcher's cage. Inside the bus were people that you would call spiritual in their attire. In the mainstream media, they often use hippie New Age people to denote the spiritual community.
This was apparently the 2012 opening thing of London, but that's not the part that I'm looking for. This is the part that I'm looking for.
The establishment. But to say he's a wolf in sheep's clothing does not come from nowhere either. You see, Russell dated Jemima Khan, and she is a relative of the Rothschilds. Now, that's obviously a name most, when they look at the...
Aunt Jemima Khan? What? This has got to be fiction.
Global elite and the secret elite, as you were, the dark hand that is controlling things from behind the scenes. Rockefeller, these names come up. And she was the editor of the New Statesman, and the New Statesman was founded by the Fabian Society. And the Fabian Society have an emblem, and that emblem is wolves undressing from sheep's clothing. It's literally a wolf undressing from sheep's clothing. And this society is not small. They are the founder of the Labour Party in the UK. So they are starting main political parties. You have Republican and Democrat. In England, you've got Labour and Conservative. The Conservative...
What a coincidence, eh? More recently, Kale brought Pastor Paul close to that Rodrier fellow who had been on the Peterson show.
Eclectic Podcast. I'm your host, Kale Zeldin, and with me, as typically...
Oh, no. This was apparently this was right before they ceased contact. I don't know the story at all, and I don't know if it's not improper to ask Kale about it tomorrow. But that Fancy Pants General Electric podcast intro with the guitar I played for you earlier, I'm about to play for you again now as soon as I dig it up while I'm talking, because it's very easy to do when you're a Fancy Pants professional like myself. I'm almost there. It's somewhere. Oh, here it is. Hey, look at that. He found it. He shared it. He pressed the thing. He went back to the front. He should have... So our research has revealed that before this relationship with this General Electric conservative thing, he apparently had Pastor Paul on the show, and as you can tell by this introduction.
Is Rod Dreer. Rod is still in Budapest, but we have a special episode, at least for me, today, because we have a friend of mine, a YouTube.
Oh, that was back in the good old days with Kermit and the Count and the Joe Rogan monkey. You see them over there, over on his right shoulder. Like most people have an angel on the right shoulder and the devil on the left. Pastor Paul, he's got Kermit, Dracula, and the monkey.
YouTuber, I guess, a podcaster, and really a Protestant minister in the Christian Reformed Church, Paul Vanderclay. Paul, it is great to see you. You've had me on your show many, many moons ago. It's just great to have you. How are you today?
Doing very well. It's great to be here.
Good.
And
So,
Paul, by the way, is a superior beard haver. You forgot to give him that title.
Yeah. Again, it's because I consume so much Paul content. I know where I am, when the podcast happened, based upon the beard moving out. So.
And now the 33rd minute.
So, and I think there are actually two modes that we interact the world with, and that's the spirit of finesse and the spirit of geometry. And we deal with the spirit of geometry when we know how to take apart our personal computer, or we know which camera to use. We have the kind of in-depth knowledge that allows us to actually have dominion over something, which is something that we rightly have dominion over. That's the spirit.
I think we are, Chad. Chad said, can we hear more about the mental and spiritual reality health, yada, yada? And I think that's what we're hearing right now, even though that's not what you meant.
Spirit of geometry, but the spirit of finesse, I think, is the personal mode. It's the reason people who are not mechanics name their cars, and the reason people talk to their computers and their technology, because they have a sense that when they are looking up, they have to enter a personalism mode in order to interact with something that is, in a sense, greater than their ability to comprehend it. And
Flying Kale. Now we're just gonna run our knife through this. I really like to do it quite a few times because I like mine really thin. If you see any stalks in there or stems, you can just pull them out. I like just leafy greens. Okay, now I'm going to transfer our kale into a large bowl.
Remember it.
This you should see. We want.
It did no such thing. That lady likes it that way. That's just how that lady likes it, Corey. I don't do that sort of thing. Can you spitball? What does that even mean? Oh, about the mental versus spiritual reality, yada yada. Oh, well, man. I like the physical body is an antenna, and we muck it up with coffee and cigarettes, and it blocks the frequency. But like the mental notion we have of self is a construct of the left hemisphere, and like our entire right hemisphere is like, hey, man. But we think we're just got the little pilot on the left in like one of those little what do you call it? The motorcycles, right? With the sidecar, we think like the right brain is the sidecar and we're the driver. But really that guy over there knows way more than we do, and if we listen to it, we'd be better off spiritually. I guess if God breathed into the clay to make humans, then we're kind of just holding God's breath. And so maybe we should not smoke. I don't know, Chad. I don't know. Will jeans be worn? Now, mind you, denim, like the Denim Wars Denny had available below. Apparently, it should be available. Terribly expensive. It's a high fashion item. Denim is used for more than just jeans, but I'm pretty sure that Kale will specifically wear jeans in this because back before Twitter was X, he began what was known as the Denim Wars because he's against the working man for some reason. I don't. We might even get into that if we want to lighten things up. You might most recently be familiar with Kale's appearance defending perhaps Tucker Carlson on the PVKs. Is PVK too soft, nuanced, and winsome? On Tucker Carlson, Tucker, my sweet, sweet boy Tucker, evil, and the culture war.
Man, going right for it, huh? Sam?
Already
Jeez.
beaten up on Sam. Where 2 or 3 are gathered and we find a non-Trinitarian, this is what we do. Well, welcome everyone.
Corey Coble is spitting facts in the hive mind of the Scale Prep Unshow, and he's going to be on at lunch tomorrow unless he stands me up. Like they find out because I said this that he's going to be on, and then his friends warn him not to do it. But that doesn't happen tomorrow, guys. But most importantly, Corey Coble is spitting facts. Okay, he's got the sidecars are the best. Also, the best Indiana Jones movie is The Last Crusade, and that's very, very true. Very true.
To the beatdown that I am about to receive for the sins of being soft on child sacrifice that I have displayed this week on my own YouTube channel. I have got.
Yeah, but we mean it, Paul. It's not, ha, you're too soft on child. No, you're too soft on child sacrifice, bro.
I've gathered today for my penance a group of bona fide. I don't know what they're actually bona fide. Some of them are a little conservative. We
are all against child sacrifice. So
with one accord.
Yep.
Well, I guess we can stop watching now. No, here's the 33rd minute.
Who do I read today? Matt Taibbi, Michael Tracy, Glenn Greenwald. Okay. Why? Because they're the ones that are best describing how the world's gone nuts.
Okay.
And so what we see, what all Tucker Carlson in my mind did, I'm like Kale, I don't watch him because I think that watching Fox News is like watching anger porn, is Tucker Carlson aptly described.
First of all, the word pornography is terribly misapplied. As someone has recently pointed out to me, there's no such thing as child pornography. That's something else closer to a snuff film. And I don't know that we'd be so free with the word pornography if we hadn't normalized the weapon against I mean, come on. It's a weapon. You're going to go to war with the people, right? You want to sneak in there, and if you can, cut the tips of their dicks off. But if you can't, at least getting them to... Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry. I got triggered. Here's the rest of that minute.
And so what we see, what all Tucker Carlson in my mind did, I'm like Kale, I don't watch him because I think that watching Fox News is like watching anger porn, is Tucker Carlson aptly described what the battle is, which is, it's not about back in the old days, 40 years ago, Paul would say, Hank, I think tax rate should be X on this because it will have this salutary benefit. No, Paul, I think it should be this, and we'd have a debate about it. Now we have a debate of what a woman is it okay if my 13-year-old daughter feels like a boy that she should be mutilated and put on a
we got at least 5 more seconds of it.
A altar to Baal, okay, and ruin her life because you're seeing people who are deconstructing out of the transgender.
Yeah, about all that, man. I'm too much of an apocalyptican. That's the angle I don't see that they're not considering. Like, you do understand that you'll have to dedicate your life to maintaining the ability of the pharmaceutical industry to obtain the suspicious chemicals you need to inject constantly, or the as a matter of fact, here that's all the Kale clips I have. We can look around for other parts if you guys want to find some, but also serendipitously, Saint Sartori uploaded this today, and it sort of fits the when if the hormone line shuts down category.
Gives her stocking, gives her mascara. Gives her a means of transportation. Goes to the party. Dances with the prince, has a swell time. Boring, 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 boring. Now, there's a slight inclination to that line as I've drawn it because it takes perhaps 20 seconds, 30 seconds for a grandfather clock to strike 12.
Is everything all right in here?
Yes, Nanny.
Didn't 1984 start with the clock striking 13?
Don't worry, Mom. I know all about cannibalism. I saw it on TV.
See? It's okay. You saw it on the television.
Slime! What? It's a river of slime!
If they got those, if they actually did the paragraphs, right, and they turned them in, and I just scanned them through, an AI grader. Well, the technology is already there for them to grade better than me. Like, we know this, actually. We've known it for about 20 years now. What if you just have an AI generated series of paragraphs called an essay, and it was tagged as a B+ essay on The Great Gatsby and the American Dream or something like that, right? You can literally buy 50 million of these on the internet, like right now today, right? And they source that from the internet, click, 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 purchase, doom, and they send it over. They don't even have to give me a paper. They can just send it to my Outlook, and then my Outlook sort of inserts it into this other thing, and I can grade them, or I could just sort of like.
Well, there's several things. Now, first, it's worth mentioning and bringing up that I personally see that the opportunity we best have in this is to treat this ability to think and talk and work with each other on these axiomatic and worldview frame breaking and making ways. As we construct our dream catchers of optimal grip, that we have this places, these live spaces, these your attention, my attention. These conversations are effectively our best estimation of a room of requirement, as those who also lived within the very corrupt environment. And this man is he does English lit magic, mind controls on pretty wealthy kids, from what I understand. And so he's got that tool set. And what the main gist I'd like to be discussing with him tomorrow is what we can learn, what he can bring to the room of requirement to make it better for everyone. Also, this is an unshow, so I don't feel bad about what's about to happen. And what's about to happen is I'm going to run a buttload of this because I got to start a whole new pot of coffee. But man, I hope you're feeling virtually not alone anyway. And this was good if you missed it, and maybe it's good for us to refresh the end of this conversation before we talk again. Yeah, just run it. Okay, I'll be right back.
Like,
click a button, have them graded.
Click a button. So now we've got the AI grading the AI. And like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go fishing. Right, but that's not what we sign up for, right? I mean, isn't what we're signing up for like the actual messiness of coffee stains on the paper and, you know, my smudge marks or my chicken scratches I'm marking up their papers, and isn't that supposed to indicate connection, embody connection? I mean, I know it's a pen and I know it's paper and I know it's words, you know, digitally spit out on a page with a laser or an inkjet or whatever, but like it's physical and it's real and it's a manifestation of something going on inside of them, and it's sent over to me and I physically pick it up, and it's a manifestation of something going on inside of me in which I'm rendering some kind of judgment. But it's not cold judgment. It's like, it's John's paper and I want John to do well, and I want to be surprised by John's second paragraph, because when he showed me a draft of that second paragraph, it was kind of shitty, and I want to see if that shitty paragraph got turned into something like a little bit better. And man, I cannot wait to circle that paragraph and put a big smiley face on it. It's like, well done, brother. Now, who cares? It's useless, right? In any way that the world measures that kind of thing. It's like that paragraph's not going to win a Pulitzer Prize. It's not going to get him into college. It's not going to pay the bills, whatever it is. But like, that's a kind of weird moment of connection in which one human being has paid attention to another human being, and not even in the moment. Like, it's like this deferred moment. He's over there in his room writing away, and I'm over in my office, you know, grading away. And like, there's some sort of weird out of time connection that occurs, and like the kid wants to see that, and I want to give that to the kid. Like, that's what I think we lose, right? So you're talking about paintball, and why is it we want to do paintball? Well, we want to do paintball because you need to get back into your body and into the real, and you want to perform coordinated action against an enemy together, and high signs and pops and hiding, and you know, all that entails, right?
Well, that's a lot. Let me see if I can catch up first.
Sorry.
The grading of the papers was a real good distinction between and the contractual, the unspoken contractual nature, and the betrayal of it you were speaking of is really good for differentiation between the spirit and the letter of the law. It's super easy to, well, not super easy. Well, now it is. It wasn't always, but now it is super easy to code to follow the letter of the law and see if the contract was successfully executed. But like, was John successfully watered as a student plant?
Right.
Did he grow any from the experience? And does playing paintball against the Baptists help you grow? If you lose or win, is that an experience that's different? It's the thing, and I heard it, I don't know where in what you were saying, but it was the interaction between people is, you know, that whatever is interacting with you is the same mystery as you.
Right. Okay. So, did you by any chance see the documentary of Manti Te'o and on Netflix about and the whole situation with his catfished fake girlfriend?
No.
Oh God, Grim, you gotta see it. Okay, so imagine if you dated someone who wasn't someone, right? It's like, you know, it's one of those things that like our parents could not imagine, we can barely imagine, but the generation that has come after us can totally imagine.
Well, I map it to the movie Her with Gal Quinn and Scarlett, where
Didn't see
she's the operating system he falls in love for. So that's easier than a person being faked by another person.
Right.
Because a person faking another person, at least there's the creativity of an actual human involved. But I understand catfishing as a thing.
Yeah, right. Okay, it still works. Okay, so imagine, but do you intuit the tragedy of a situation in which I am grading a paper for a student that doesn't exist?
If that student that doesn't exist doesn't go on to be food in an AI, yes. But I don't rule out that we're not, the Blade Runner, Roy Batty, Tears in the Rain.
Yeah.
I never understood why, what he was losing when he died was that much different. And so the notion that we're the meaty species that makes a silicon-based life form, and we're here to be their parents, as one of the telos of our species, is great. Because otherwise, I wouldn't mind going back to the Coyote Confederacy and hunting buffalo with the boys for my life.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think the thing about the human connection, or even with animals, the connection with actual life, is that it's the same mystery, and not. I mean, I don't know.
Well, you started off, kind of talking about the
spirit in the letter.
Yeah, but even earlier than that, you were talking about like the whole idea that, video games are sort of a capturing device that are robbing our kids of the real. I think that's what you were getting at.
It's that they're better. They're super normal stimuli. I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but it came to me as like scientists figured out that a bird would like sitting on the red egg. The more red the egg was, the better they like sitting on it. And so they painted a really red thing and put it in the bird's nest, and she let all her kids die to sit on the fake one.
Sit on the one that, yeah.
And
yeah,
it's on that same level. I think video games are dangerous, but they're also one of the most moving stories. They shape my character also.
Right.
So,
right. And I know, I can hear the conflict in your voice because, I have a little experience of that too. And you could say the same thing about, TV and pop culture. I know you talked with Paul a little bit about that. And I think in that we're also very similar there too,
It's like I don't want to come across as anti. It's like they're dangerous.
Yeah, no, I'm getting that from you, Greg. I'm getting that from you that it's not that you think they're bad necessarily, but it's that most people don't respect them.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. And there's this idea of like the real and the hyper real, right? And that the hyper real, the egg situation reminds me of this idea that you and I grew up in the age of like the sort of the high watermark for like all things artificially flavored, right? And I remember, I have memories of eating the real thing like in my 20s that I only had the artificial version of until then. And being kind of like, oh, that's kind of a letdown. It's not as good as the Pop-Tart, or whatever.
Right.
And in part that's because the sort of the hyper concentrated hyper real was gaming my taste receptors. It was gaming all those sorts of things. It was like, yeah, it was like actually kind of better, and you think about this with video games. It's like
Speaking of which, I recently discovered that local strawberries are really like Beauregard strawberries or something.
Yeah, like my online experience with Call of Duty and my 5 bros online is way better than like doing something in life.
I'm playing
Like, what are we gonna?
catch.
Yeah, what do we do? Like, we're gonna build a sidewalk? Like, really? Like, I freaking saved the Axis powers, last night. Damn it, like we just slayed some smart Nazis last night. Like, that was cool. And you want me to get up in the morning and like lay a foundation? Screw that. Where's
What you do in the morning is your foundation.
the glory in that? Where's the meaning in that? Right? I mean,
Yeah, it's
so
like what is your culture? What experience is your culture offering you? Like,
yeah.
Well, go chase money, and if you're really good at it, then you get to play all the games you could be playing now on a bigger TV.
That's right. No, that's exactly right. And I think I reread. I said this on.
You ever martyred your potential in a tantrum for being born? Like, fuck you for making me this way. See if I do anything with it.
I'm attacking the darkness.
Now, I was closing down tabs, and I got back to this one where it was this thing.
Alter to bowel, okay, and ruin her life, because you're seeing people who are deconstructing out of the transgenderism are saying my life has been ruined, okay, and where are people our age that were around 30-40 years ago who were there for wisdom saying this is here, let me explain why this is not a good idea.
I think a lot of this again is so Mo is talking about the fact that you live in a zip code, you know what's going on in that zip code. I mean, and this was when they were talking defund the police, where I grew up in Patterson, and when I work here, I regularly talk to lots of Black mothers, and I have never heard a single Black mother who's dealing with the stuff going on down their street say, you know what we need? We need less cops. What they're mostly
doing. Video game addiction is a symptom of a dead culture. Also, how do we feel about romance novels? Is it the same as pornography, or is it good because it's focused on love? Well, do you diddle yourself when you read it? Because I think that's the thing that makes the thing not the greatest. If you just read it, you might be okay. Corey says, if it calls you to a higher something beyond itself, a romance novel is good. Addiction is the opposite of that. No, I'm going to let Paul run on another minute and get that coffee.
Doing is screaming about the lack of police enforcement that they are getting, police enforcement against some of the young Black men in their community. I mean, I've lived that scene my entire life. Part of what we're dealing with is, again, I think the disruption of these extended bodies, these extended institutions, because Tucker Carlson coming out with his bow tie, someone in the 1970s might have yelled, well, there's a limousine liberal. What on earth does Tucker Carlson driving around in his little golf cart with his pretty little wife down there in Southern California really know?
This is the thing. Like, I went to close it. Like, there's okay, so we never talk about real around here, and the reason we never talk about Rio is because A, they'll shut us down if we do, and B, nobody wants to hear it. We're in the pig stalls. This is the pig stalls. We're trapped in little devices. Here we are now. Entertain me. And so we don't really want to know. But what do? We throw the pearls until what? They take us off to the slaughterhouse, or we level up, and the guys at the next level say, "All right, you made it. Come on. Let's see if we can find Kale talking in this." And then there he is, right after Sam.
And it's not, and their disillusion is not unlike the disillusion of the British Empire, right? In which you have this sort of long, slow death, and now to the credit to the Brits, they've been able to sort of figure out how to kind of do it, sort of. But the Wasps seem to have comforted themselves with this. At least we have the institutions. Okay. Now, I find it very interesting, Paul, that you make the generational point. Rod makes the generational point, right? And all of us in this sort of like, all this sort of this early Gen X, mid Gen X, late Gen X reality is that all of us, except for a few outliers like a Ross Douthat, right? But all of us operate outside of the mainstream. You like to say, Paul, like, what do you mean you can't say it? I hear this stuff all the time. Yeah, Paul, we're in this little corner, like yammering on, right? It's not the same thing. I mean, look, how many times could you have like looked up a Christian blog or a Christian YouTube channel in which they complain about the evils of pornography? And it would have been 100% correct. And we all have seen this, maybe even participated in this. Nicholas Kristof at the New York Times writes one damn column, and all of a sudden, Pornhub is back-footed and has to sort of do all this kind of work to sort of reestablish themselves. So I think it's a big friggin' deal, that Tucker Carlson just got canned from the one establishment perch in which you could have some kind of counter to the grand narrative. And so that's...
But he just moved over to pimp Elon's thing for him and try and move the herd onto the everything app. What? You guys are suffering out there? I'm sorry. The suffering makes the pig able to notice the pearl. Maybe. Sometimes. I hope. Oh, well, I get your record. As far as I can tell, until you can eat a lion, you're stuck here. And I still can't eat a lion. But meanwhile, we can limerence. It's limerence. Cassandra says it's a romantic obsession, but it sounds like liminally illuminatory, and like, oh, well, that'd be liminence, not limerence. It's like more like a limerick, Grim. You dumb. So I was just sitting here thinking, we're basically like telepathic cyborgs, right? We're using cybernetic technology to fake telepathy. Like, I can put a thought in your head, you read it usually, like a text message or a Twitter thing, right? But we have this thing called language, and we send it on electricity, and it's as close to telepathy as humanity has ever been. Thought is faster than the messengers that carry it, and faster and faster, shorter synapses. What I don't. What do you want to do while you're stuck here? Says some MF in the hive mind. And what immediately came to mind was what this Odin looking mofo put on his look, see Odin and the two birds. What he put on his bio. I want to major in equipping those who follow me with the things that against such things there is no law. All right, so basically, what's not illegal yet, I want to give you guys the ability to do. It's like you're at a major disadvantage unless you happen to find the channel or an affiliation of the channel, because unless you've had some other divine intervention, you don't realize you're swimming in mind control. You don't gather that, like, as you have a father that you may or may probably don't know. Probably don't know. We probably don't at this point, percentage wise. Oh, if for those of you who still pay the Barack Netflix thing monies every month, they have this F is for Family show on there. It's a cartoon by a funny man, haha, and the first season explains like it's the rise of Set, and somewhere in the first season there's a kid that gets in detention, and all the kids around him, they sit and point and they say broken home, broken home. Now that level of bullying hasn't, like, we can't have that bullying someone just because they're from a broken home. We have to allow it, normalize it, and make it okay. Not shameful at all, mostly.
Slime! What? It's a river of slime! I'm attacking the darkness!
So much like you have a father, a grandfather, and on up to 5 generations. Similarly, warfare is now gone up and up the generations. And it's interesting, like we talk about like the attitude and the altitude, like spiritually, but it's almost as if digitally is literally an inversion of spiritually, because there's also a verticality to the digital plane. And what did you want? Why did you see that? What were you talking about before? Oh, yes. This multiple levels of warfare. It's like, now that we are telepathic cyborgs, wouldn't the most convenient thing to be just to like reprogram your enemy's mind from way over here with your mind control? What? What if, like, and I'm a rancher. You're a rancher. We're ranchers, right? We ranch. We grow the things that keep us alive, chickens, whatever, or we support those who do. We do.
Do you have anything you want to say in conclusion?
Yes. So the governments are essentially the ranchers of the people, and they're no longer concerned with growing high caliber citizens capable of rearing their own young in the ploy for state control of the womb. And it's quite disturbing. But those guys are ranchers of populations of states and cities, and they those, because we've built our civilization up so high and up these pinnacles. That's those sort of structures are going to exist, and unless we can maintain them and keep them from becoming corrupt, it's going to be this cycle of rising and falling, and what to do in the fall, in the free fall, other than invert it, I don't know. Welcome to LARPgate Year 4, the fall inversion. All right, let's take the no. See you, gents.